By the time Lenora Vance slid the new compensation letter across the table, she had already arranged her face into sympathy. Not sadness, not guilt. Sympathy, like I had spilled coffee on myself and she was deciding whether to point it out. The conference room was called Cedar, which felt generous for a glass box with a white laminate table and one sad fake plant in the corner. Outside the wall, people walked past with laptops pressed to their ribs, pretending not to look in. Inside, it was just Lenora, a payroll manager named Grant, and me. Lenora placed one manicured finger on the page. Maya, this reflects the new structure we discussed. We had not discussed it. She had sent me a calendar invite at 7:40 that morning with the subject line, role alignment, and by 8:05, I was watching my salary get cut by 65%. My first thought was not noble. It was the number on my rent autopay. Then my mother's pharmacy voicemail from the night before pressed through my head, the one about her inhaler copay changing again. I looked down at the letter. My title had been changed from Compliance Operations Specialist to Documentation Coordinator. The salary line looked like someone had deleted my life with a bored thumb. This is a 65% reduction, I managed. Grant's shoe stopped moving. Lenora tilted her head. It is a recalibration. The market has shifted, and frankly, some of your previous responsibilities are being distributed across the team. Previous responsibilities. That morning before 8, I had already answered 2 client renewal questions, corrected a device tracking discrepancy, and flagged a missing adverse event log that would have embarrassed us in front of Northlake Surgical. I still had a sticky note in my notebook reminding me to update the responsible officer language in their compliance packet. Lenora's eyes moved to that notebook, then back to me. We value your institutional knowledge, she continued. That's why we want you to stay. I almost laughed, but it caught somewhere behind my teeth. On the wall behind her, between a framed mission statement and a blurry photo from a trade show, hung my certification. My name, Maya Collins, printed in careful black letters. Certified Regulatory Compliance Professional. I had brought the frame in 2 years earlier, after Lenora told me clients liked seeing credentials during office visits. She had chosen the wall. Now she glanced at it like it was office furniture. The certification stays relevant to the department, she added, softer. That doesn't change just because reporting lines do. The meaning sat there, not in the letter, not exactly, but in the room with us. They were cutting the roll. They were keeping the credential. I put both hands flat on the table because they had started to tremble. If my responsibilities are being distributed, who is the responsible compliance contact for the Northlake renewal? Grant looked at Lenora. Lenora smiled as if I had asked whether the printer had paper. We'll manage the transition. For today, I need you focused on signing the modified employment acknowledgement. The word signing made the room smaller. I had seen that phrase before in termination packets. Refusing modified employment could affect severance. It could affect unemployment. It could become a neat little note in a personnel file that said I had chosen not to cooperate. I thought about standing up. I pictured it clearly. Pushing back the chair, saying no, walking through the office while everyone watched me become a cautionary story before lunch. Then I pictured my checking account. That was the worst part. Not that I was weak, exactly, that I could feel myself calculating how much humiliation I could afford. Lenora folded her hands. Maya, I know change can feel personal. It isn't. This is about sustainability. If we all stay flexible, the department stays healthy. Healthy. I had spent 3 winters dragging that department through audits while Lenora practiced client language before calls. I had worked through migraines, through my mother's first hospital discharge, through one Christmas Eve when a vendor's documentation error threatened a shipment hold. But the department was the living thing. I was the cost center. Grant slid a pen toward me without meeting my eyes. I picked it up. The first letter of my signature came out jagged. Lenora relaxed before I finished writing. That was what I remembered later, more than the number, more than the glass walls. She relaxed while my hand was still moving. Grant gathered the pages and gave me a copy. Payroll will update by end of day. Lenora stood, smoothing the front of her cream blazer. Let's keep this professional. I know I can count on you to help make the transition seamless. Seamless meant no one would see where she had cut me. At the door, she touched my elbow. One more thing. Please don't remove anything from the compliance wall yet. The client tour next week is still on the calendar. I looked past her at my framed certification. For a second, I saw it the way she did. Not as proof of study nights, exam fees, and years of catching what other people missed, but as a prop behind her shoulder. Of course, I said. The words tasted flat and metallic. I walked back to my desk with the signed copy pressed against my ribs. My inbox was still full. My tea had gone cold. Someone had left a stack of adverse event forms on my chair like the morning had not happened. I sat down, opened the folder, and read the letter again. Then I read the letterhead. Lenora had used the old compliance template, the one reserved for responsible officer notices and client attestations. It still carried the certification footer I had created after the last audit. My certification number sat in tiny gray text at the bottom of the page, underneath the signature line she had just made me sign. For the first time all morning, my hands stopped shaking. I accepted their pay cut that day because I was scared. But the letter I gave Lenora the next morning was not an acceptance. It was a withdrawal. My desk sat in the compliance aisle, which was really just the back row of the operations floor, where the carpet changed from gray to darker gray. From there, I could hear the copier warm up every morning like an old appliance clearing its throat, and I could smell the break room coffee turning bitter by 10. That morning, every ordinary sound felt staged. The badge reader blinked blue when I came back from Cedar, the same cheerful little flash it gave everyone. My monitor still had 3 renewal windows open: North Lake Surgical, Prairie Home Infusion, Westbridge Ortho, all of them waiting for answers from me because the people with higher titles liked the way my name made clients stop worrying. I put the pay cut letter under my keyboard, not in a drawer, not in my bag, under the keyboard where I could feel the corner of it whenever I typed. Across the aisle, Omar from Quality glanced over his monitor. His eyes dropped to the folder, then to my face. Everything okay? He meant it quietly. Omar had a wife in residency, 2 kids, and a talent for asking real questions in a voice that sounded like he was asking about printer toner. I almost told him. Instead, I reached for the stack of adverse event forms on my chair. Lenora is reorganizing. His mouth pulled to one side. That's usually what she calls it before someone loses access. I tried to smile and failed. My phone buzzed. A voicemail transcription from Fairview Pharmacy appeared at the top of my screen. Your requested refill has a revised patient responsibility of $189.40. I turned the phone face down. People like to imagine the humiliating moments are clean because anger makes a better story than math. But I did math for the next hour. Rent, utilities, my student loan minimum, my mother's inhaler because Medicare covered less than we thought, gas, groceries if I stopped pretending hummus and crackers counted as dinner. At 10:15, Lenora sent a team message. Thanks all for staying flexible during our Q1 role alignment. Maya will continue supporting documentation continuity while Brooke ramps up on renewal ownership. Documentation continuity? Renewal ownership. The words were so smooth, they slid right past the injury. Brooke reacted to the message with a thumbs up, then removed it. A minute later, she appeared beside my desk, holding a notebook with tiny flowers on the cover. Do you have a second? Her voice had the bright edge people get when they are trying not to sound nervous. I looked at her notebook. The top page already had North Lake Renewal written in purple ink. For what? She flushed. Lenora asked me to shadow the process. Just high level. I know you're busy. Busy was a funny word for cheaper. I turned my chair toward her because none of this was her fault, at least not yet. What did Lenora tell you the process was? Brooke hugged the notebook to her chest. That the template is mostly done, and I should learn where the supporting files live. She said you built a really good system. A compliment passed through a third person is not a compliment. It is packaging. The supporting files are not the process, I told her. Brooke blinked. I heard myself becoming sharp and hated that Lenora had found a way to make me aim it at the newest person in the aisle. I took a breath. Northlake's renewal requires current oversight. Whoever submits has to understand the adverse event reconciliation, device tracking exceptions, training logs, and the 2 open corrective actions from December. If you inherit it, you need time. Lenora said the heavy lift was already done. Of course she had. On my screen, an email from Northlake's renewal coordinator came in with the subject line, Thursday packet confirmation. Hi Maya, just confirming you will still be our responsible compliance contact for the call. Brooke saw the sender. Her shoulders went still. I clicked away from it too quickly. I can't train you from scratch in a hallway, I said lower. I didn't ask her to give it to me. Brooke's face changed then, the brightness cracking. I know how this looks. I thought it was because you were moving up. That would have been funny if my stomach had not hurt. I picked up the adverse event stack. I need to finish these. She nodded and backed away, but not before I noticed the thing that made my skin go cold. In her notebook, under my old title, she had written, Maya keeps CERT active through transition. I waited until she left, then pulled the pay cut letter from under my keyboard. Documentation coordinator. No responsible officer language. No certification duties. No salary that matched any duty involving regulatory accountability. At 11:30, payroll updated my employee profile. The notification came as a small gray banner in the corner of my screen, bloodless and efficient. Compensation change processed. A second later, my bank app buzzed with the rent reminder I had forgotten to disable. I opened the reclassification PDF again. The new title sat under my name like a label slapped on the wrong box. Beneath it was Lenora's signature, Grant's initials, effective immediately. My throat tightened so hard I had to stand up. In the hallway, the framed certification wall caught the overhead lights. 5 certificates in identical black frames. Mine was second from the left. The glass reflected my face back at me in pieces. I touched the bottom edge of the frame, just once. Then I went back to my desk because the Northlake email was still waiting, and for the first time all day, I did not answer it. By 8 the next morning, my badge still opened the compliance floor. That should have comforted me. Instead, the blue blink at the reader felt like a dare. I came in through the parking ramp entrance with salt grit caught in the cuffs of my pants and my hair still damp from sleet. March in Minneapolis had a special talent for making everything look temporary. Snowbanks went gray at the edges. Puddles froze, melted, then froze again. Even the office lobby smelled wet, like wool coats and floor cleaner. The first sign was my dashboard. I logged in, typed the 6-digit code from my phone, and waited for the compliance portal to load. Usually, the front page showed my renewal queue, open corrective actions, adverse event exceptions, and client packet deadlines in neat red and yellow rows. That morning, the page was almost empty. Documentation support access only. I stared at those 4 words until the screen dimmed. Omar rolled his chair back. You okay over there? My queue is gone. He pushed away from his desk and came around behind me. He did not touch my mouse, which I appreciated. People in compliance learned not to touch screens they might later have to swear they had not changed. That's not a standard permissions group, he murmured. No. Who created it? I clicked into the access details. The requester line was blank for a second, then loaded. Lenora Vance. Omar exhaled through his nose. That was fast. Across the aisle, Brooke arrived with 2 coffees and the expression of someone trying to walk into a room without making a sound. She set one on my desk. I didn't know what you drink, she offered, so I guessed oat milk. It was such a small, guilty peace offering that I almost felt sorry for both of us. Thank you. She shifted her notebook from one hand to the other. Lenora wants us in Juniper at 9. She said we should go through the Northlake packet. Omar looked at me, then down at the screen where my missing cue made the whole request absurd. I picked up the coffee. The cardboard sleeve was damp from condensation. Did she say what I am supposed to go through it with? Brooke's forehead creased. I turned the monitor slightly so she could see. Documentation support access only. Color rose in her face. I thought you still had everything. She told me the access change was just reporting cleanup. Reporting cleanup, role alignment, sustainability. Lenora could make a guillotine sound like an office supply. At 9, Juniper was cold enough that Brooke kept both hands wrapped around her paper cup. Lenora arrived 4 minutes late, carrying no notebook. That was how I knew she expected everyone else to remember things for her. Great, she began, closing the door. Maya, I want you to walk Brooke through the North Lake renewal logic. Big picture, no need to get buried in old weeds. I don't have access to the renewal queue anymore. Lenora placed her phone face down on the table. You have access to documentation support. That should be sufficient for knowledge transfer. Not for responsible officer review. Her eyes flicked toward Brooke, annoyed that I had used the phrase in front of her. Brooke is taking point. You are supporting continuity. Brooke opened her notebook but did not write. I looked at Lenora. Is Brooke now the responsible officer for Northlake? The room gave us 3 quiet seconds. Lenora smiled without showing teeth. Titles are less important than teamwork right now. There were plenty of sentences in corporate life that meant no. That one meant no with a ribbon on it. I nodded slowly. My mistake, up to that moment, had been thinking she was improvising. She was not. She had created a version of the job where Brooke got the visible work. I kept the liability, and payroll kept most of my salary. I can explain the folder structure, I said. I cannot represent current compliance oversight without the role, access, or compensation attached to that responsibility. Brooke stopped pretending to look at her notes. Lenora's voice dropped. Maya, be careful not to make this adversarial. I felt the old reflex rise in me, the one that wanted to smooth the table, make everyone comfortable, prove I was reasonable enough to deserve basic respect. I'm being precise. Lenora held my gaze a beat too long. Precision is appreciated when it serves the transition. Then she turned to Brooke as if I had become a training video. Start with the prior year binder. Maya can show you how she organized the evidence trail. The prior year binder was not in my access anymore, but it was still in the physical cabinet behind the compliance wall. I knew because I had labeled it myself with a blue tab after last year's audit, when Lenora had promised we would hire another specialist and then use the money for a trade show booth. I went to the cabinet after the meeting. The lock clicked open under my old key. Inside, my labels lined up in clean rows. Northlake, Prairie Home, Westbridge, Audit Evidence, Responsible Officer Attestations. On the wall above the cabinet, my framed certification still hung under the track lights. Documentation support access only on my screen. Certified Responsible Officer on the wall. The contradiction was no longer just insulting. It was useful. Behind me, Brooke stood in the aisle, hugging her notebook again. I'm sorry, she whispered. I really thought you were being promoted out of this. I pulled the Northlake binder from the shelf. So did I lied. The binder was heavier than I remembered. When I set it on my desk, the metal ring snapped open with a sharp, familiar crack that made Omar look over. For 2 years, that sound had meant more work. That morning, it sounded like evidence. The Northlake binder had always been too full. That was partly my fault. I liked evidence trails clean enough that a stranger could follow them on a bad day. Every exception had a printed source. Every corrective action had a closeout note. Every client question had the email behind it. Lenora used to tease me about it when clients complimented the packets. Maya builds binders like she's expecting a congressional hearing, she would say, smiling toward the client while I sat beside her with my hands folded. Now my own neatness sat on my desk like a witness. I waited until Lenora left for a 10:30 leadership call before I opened the shared drive. My downgraded permissions blocked the live renewal folder, but they had not blocked archived templates. That was sloppy. Or arrogant. With Lenora, the difference was mostly timing. I searched Northlake Renewal Final. The first result was last year's packet. The second was a draft I had built 2 weeks ago. The third made my fingers pause above the keyboard. Northlake Renewal Packet, current submission. Modified yesterday at 4:22 p.m. Modified by Lenora Vance. I clicked. For a moment, the file opened. Not fully. The screen loaded enough to show the cover page before the permissions banner appeared and grayed out the rest. But the cover page was enough to make the office sounds recede. Responsible Compliance Officer, Maya Collins, CRCP, Certification Number, MC17429. Current oversight period, January 1st through present. Present. My job title had been cut. My pay had been cut. My access had been cut. But somehow, on a packet Lenora edited after all of that, my authority remained perfectly intact. I took one screenshot before the portal kicked me out. Then I sat completely still. The copier hummed behind me. Someone laughed near the kitchen. Brooke was 2 desks away, wearing headphones that were not plugged into anything. I opened the physical binder and flipped to the Responsible Officer section. Last year's attestation was there with my signature in blue ink. The language was precise because I had written it after an auditor from Iowa nearly rejected a packet over vague oversight wording. I certify that I have current oversight authority for the compliance records represented in this renewal. Current oversight authority. I ran my thumb along the page until the paper edge bit my skin. There were rules about this, not glamorous rules, not courtroom drama rules, boring rules, the kind buried in client contracts and regulatory checklists, but they mattered. A company could not cut someone out of an authorized compliance role and keep using that person's credential as if nothing had changed. Not without correction, not without consent, especially not if they had documented the change themselves. I opened the audit log next. At first, it denied me. Then I remembered the back door I had created for read-only review after last year's outage, when the portal vendor broke admin reports 3 days before renewal season. It was not secret. It was not improper. It was just one of those practical fixes everyone praised until they forgot who built it. The log appeared in a narrow window. 4:22 p.m. Lenora opened the current submission packet. 4:27 p.m. Lenora changed preparer field from Maya Collins to Brooke Ellis. 4:31 p.m. Lenora left responsible officer field unchanged. 4:34 p.m. Lenora exported client copy. I printed the log. The printer at the end of the aisle made a grinding sound before it caught the paper. I walked over too quickly, then forced myself to slow down. Nothing makes an office look at you faster than urgency near a printer. The first page came out warm. The black toner shone for a second before dulling. Lenora left responsible officer field unchanged. I slid the page under a stack of training logs and carried everything back to my desk. Omar watched me over the top of his monitor. His face gave away nothing, which was one of the reasons I trusted him more than people who performed concern loudly. "You find something?" he asked. I looked toward Lenora's office. Her door was closed, but through the glass, I could see her pacing with one hand pressed to her wireless headset. "I found my name where my job isn't." Omar's mouth tightened. "Do not email that to yourself," he warned. "I know." "Do not put it on a thumb drive." "I know." He nodded toward the printer. "Paper you are allowed to access in the course of work is different. Keep it boring." That was Omar's imperfect help. No speech about justice. No promise to stand beside me if things got ugly. Just a practical line he was willing to say out loud and no farther. I kept it. At noon, Lenora sent another message. "Maya, please confirm when Northlake packet review is complete. Client copy is scheduled for release at 3. I stared at the word confirm. She did not ask me to review it. Not officially. She asked me to confirm that review was complete, so later the sentence could sit in a clean little chain with my name above it. My stomach turned. For 1 weak minute, I almost typed, "Looks good." It would have bought me peace for the afternoon. Maybe longer. Lenora might have let me keep my reduced job. Brooke would not look trapped. Omar would not have to pretend he had not warned me. My mother would get her inhaler without me moving money from savings. I put my fingers on the keys. Then the printer coughed again. The final page of the audit log had been delayed in the tray. It slid out alone, curling slightly at the edge. Exported client copy includes certification footer, MC17429, my certification number, My reduced title. Her export. I picked up the page and felt the heat of the toner against my palm. Lenora thought the pay cut had settled what I was worth. She had not noticed it also settled what she could no longer claim. Payroll lived on the second floor, next to a storage room full of unused standing desk parts and old trade show banners. It was the kind of department people forgot existed until something went wrong with their paycheck, and then suddenly everyone believed payroll had secret power. I knew better. Payroll had forms. Payroll had timestamps. Payroll had people like Tessa Park, who ate lunch at her desk with one earbud in and kept a cardigan over the back of her chair because the second floor never got warm. I found her at 1:20, stabbing a fork into a plastic salad bowl while 3 spreadsheets glowed on her monitors. She saw me and closed one window too quickly. If this is about the compensation change, I can't discuss manager-approved restructuring beyond the employee copy you received. The sentence came out flat and prepared. I stopped at the edge of her cubicle. A laminated sign above her keyboard read, "Payroll questions require ticket numbers." Someone had drawn a tiny frown face on it in dry erase marker. "I need the effective date," I told her. "It's in your letter." The actual system effective date. Tessa's fork hovered over the salad. "Maya." That one word carried warning, apology, and "please do not make me part of this." I lowered my voice. "My access changed this morning. My title changed yesterday. But the Northlake renewal packet exported after the change still lists me as responsible officer. If the system says those dates overlap, I need to know." Her eyes moved past me to the hallway. A man from accounts payable walked by, carrying a box of printer paper. Neither of us breathed normally until he turned the corner. Tessa set down the fork. "I'm not authorized to advise you." "I'm not asking for advice." That is exactly what people say right before they ask for advice. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Tessa rubbed the bridge of her nose. She was probably around my age, maybe a little younger, with dark circles that made her look permanently 2 meetings behind. We had never been friends. We had exchanged deadline complaints in the kitchen. Once, during open enrollment, she had helped me fix my mother's dependent care documentation, even though it was not technically her problem. That was the thing about office allies. Most of them were not brave. They were tired people with one decent impulse at the wrong moment. "Lenora submitted the change ticket Monday," Tessa murmured. "Monday?" The pay cut meeting had been Tuesday. Tessa clicked something on her screen, then angled her body so I could not see it directly. "Requested Monday. Manager approval Monday afternoon. Employee acknowledgement Tuesday morning. Payroll processing Tuesday. Effective date requested as Monday." The floor seemed to tilt under me. Backdating was not automatically illegal. Companies corrected effective dates all the time. But backdating a role reduction before making someone acknowledge it, while using their certification for current oversight after the reduction, was a different shape of ugly. Why would she do that? Tessa gave me a look that meant I already knew. If the reduction began Monday, then by Tuesday afternoon I was no longer in the role when Lenora exported the client copy. If Lenora admitted that, she had a packet problem. If she denied it, she had a payroll problem. She had created 2 clean stories that could not both be true. Tessa swallowed. "There's more." She hated herself for saying it. I could hear that. I stepped closer. "The cost center did not change," she continued. "You're reduced to documentation coordinator in payroll, but the renewal project code still has you listed under responsible compliance allocation through the end of the month. So on payroll, I'm cheaper. On the client project, I'm still the credential." Tessa looked down at her salad. "That is not language I used." "Of course." Her fingers moved to the mouse, then away. "If you challenge it, Lenora will say the renewal obligation was already in progress, and you refused to support transition. She put that in the ticket notes." Something cold moved through me. What exactly did she write? Tessa's jaw tightened. "Tessa." She turned her monitor 1 inch, not enough for me to read the whole ticket. Enough for my eyes to catch the note line. "Employee possesses historical process knowledge necessary for client continuity. Anticipate resistance due to role perception. Manager to coach through transition. Role perception. Not salary cut. Not certification conflict. Not cutting my pay by more than half while keeping my name in a renewal packet. Role perception, like I was confused about my own job. My face burned. Tessa turned the monitor back. I need you to leave my desk. I did not move. For a second, the fight went out of me so completely, I scared myself. I saw the easiest path with cruel clarity. Go back upstairs. Answer Lenora's email. Help Brooke submit the packet. Keep the reduced job for a month or two. Apply at night. Let the company use the certification because making an issue of it would make me look difficult. And difficult women in compliance did not always get clean references. I was so tired of being strategic. Tessa opened her drawer, took out a yellow sticky note, and wrote without looking at me. Then she pressed it face down beside my hand. You dropped this, she muttered. I picked it up. Ticket PR 8164. Monday, 3:48 p.m. Cost center, unchanged. Her handwriting was small and tense. Tessa! Do not thank me. Do not repeat my name. Do not turn me into the person who solved this for you. I have a mortgage and a father on my insurance. That was fair. Not pretty, but fair. I folded the sticky note into a square and tucked it inside my notebook behind a page of ordinary meeting notes. At the elevator, I had to press the button twice because my finger missed the first time. When the doors opened, Brooke was inside, holding the Northlake binder against her chest. She looked at my face and did not ask what happened. Instead, she stepped aside to make room. The elevator rose slowly, past the floor where payroll kept its timestamps, and everyone pretended timestamps were neutral. By the time we reached compliance, I had stopped thinking about how to survive the pay cut. I was thinking about how to make the company tell one story at a time. Lenora chose dogwood for the next meeting. Dogwood was smaller than cedar, without outside glass, the kind of room managers used when they wanted pressure to have fewer witnesses. It had a round table, 4 chairs, and a wall-mounted screen that always took too long to connect. Someone had left a dry erase marker uncapped in the tray. The room smelled faintly chemical. The invite appeared at 4:15. Northlake Transition Touchpoint. Required Lenora Vance, Maya Collins, Brooke Ellis. I stared at the word required until Omar leaned into the aisle. You want me to accidentally need the room at the same time? I wanted that so badly my chest hurt. No, I told him. He nodded, accepting the lie as a professional courtesy. Brooke arrived before Lenora and sat with the Northlake binder open in front of her. She had stuck purple tabs on pages I had labeled months earlier in blue. The tabs were crooked, not careless, exactly, nervous. I read the adverse events section, she said as I sat down. And I don't understand why Lenora thinks I can own this by Thursday. That was the first honest sentence she had given me. Before I could answer, Lenora came in with her laptop and a stainless steel water bottle. She did not sit right away. She connected to the screen, pulled up the renewal checklist, and highlighted 3 rows in yellow. Responsible Officer Confirmation. Open Corrective Action Attestation. Client Q&A Call. Here's where we are, Lenora began. Brooke will lead the call. Maya, you'll provide support as needed. The goal is continuity, not hierarchy. I watched the cursor blink beside my name on the spreadsheet. What does support mean in this context? Lenora clicked to another tab. Review the final packet, confirm no gaps, and be available if Northlake asks historical questions. With documentation coordinator access. Her jaw shifted. Access can be worked around. Authority cannot. Brooke's eyes moved between us. Lenora closed the laptop halfway, not enough to shut the screen off, just enough to make the room feel less like a work session and more like discipline. Maya, I need you to hear how you are coming across. The move was familiar. She had shifted from facts to tone. I folded my hands in my lap so she would not see them curl. You are a valued member of this team, Lenora continued. But the company is not in a position to maintain legacy compensation for duties that can be shared. What I am asking from you is reasonable transition support. Are you asking me to certify the packet? I'm asking you to help Brooke succeed. Are you asking me to represent current oversight on the Northlake renewal? The room seemed to tighten around the question. Lenora took a sip of water. I'm asking you not to create unnecessary obstacles around language. Brooke looked down at the binder. I almost stopped there. I had the ticket number. I had the audit log. I did not need to push in front of Brooke. Some part of me still wanted to be liked by the person taking pieces of my job, which was humiliating in a different way. Then Lenora turned to her. Brooke, why don't you walk Maya through what you need for tomorrow? Brooke's fingers tightened around her pen. I need to know what to say if Northlake asks about the December corrective actions. You tell them remediation is on track, Lenora answered before I could. Brooke swallowed. But the binder says one supplier response is still pending. Lenora's smile thinned. On track does not mean complete. I looked at Brooke then, really looked. She was not trying to steal anything. She was trying to survive being chosen for something she did not understand. If they ask, I told her, you say one supplier response is pending and give the expected date. You do not say complete. You do not say fully remediated. You do not let anyone put that in your mouth. Lenora's palm landed flat on the table. Not loud, controlled. But the marker in the tray rolled and tapped the wall. Maya, enough! My pulse jumped. Lenora leaned forward. You signed it, the modified employment acknowledgement. The company has made a good faith effort to retain you during a difficult budget cycle. If you are unwilling to support a basic transition, then I need to understand that before tomorrow morning. What happens tomorrow morning? We decide whether this arrangement is workable. A polite sentence with teeth. Brooke's face had gone pale. Lenora continued, softer now, because she knew softness made threats easier to swallow. I don't want this to become a separation conversation, but I also cannot have a team member undermining a client renewal because she is disappointed in a compensation decision. Disappointed. My salary had been cut by 65%. My access had been downgraded. My certification was still in a packet scheduled for release. And the word she chose was disappointed. For one sharp second, I wanted to throw the binder open and show her every page. The audit log, the ticket number, the footer. I wanted to watch her face change. But that would have given her the shape of my argument before I had made it properly. So I did something that felt, in the moment, like swallowing glass. I nodded. I'll think about what transition support I can provide. Lenora sat back. Victory made her generous. Good. Tomorrow morning, bring me a written plan. Something concise. We can reset from there. A written plan. Brooke closed the binder slowly. The meeting ended without anyone standing right away. Lenora gathered her laptop first, then paused at the door. And Maya? Please remember that professionalism is often measured under stress. When she left, the room felt louder without her. Brooke kept her eyes on the table. I can't do that call alone. I believed her. That was the worst part. Believing her did not change what I had to do. Then don't let them put your name on something you can't defend. She nodded once, small and scared. I stayed in Dogwood after she left. The uncapped marker had left a black stain on the tray shaped like a comma. I stared at it until the motion sensor lights clicked off and the room went dim. Lenora wanted a written plan by morning. Fine. I would bring her one page. I wrote the first version of the letter at my kitchen table with my coat still on. That version was not good. It was satisfying for about 11 minutes, which is usually a sign that writing should not leave your apartment. I used words like retaliation and fraud and knowingly false representation. I wrote Lenora's name too many times. I wrote a sentence about how she had mistaken my fear for consent, then stared at it with the grim pleasure of someone who had not yet thought about discovery, references, or rent. Then the heat kicked on with a clank, my phone buzzed with another pharmacy reminder, and I deleted almost all of it. My apartment was a one-bedroom in South Minneapolis with radiators that hissed when the weather changed. The kitchen table wobbled unless I folded a grocery receipt under one leg. That night, the receipt was from Aldi, and the total circled in blue pen made me feel foolishly exposed. I opened 3 windows on my laptop. Northlake contract language, saved from last year's renewal folder. My certification rules. Job postings for compliance roles within 20 miles. The postings were a mistake. Every listing wanted 5 to 7 years, specialized software, calm under pressure, team player, salary commensurate with experience. Commensurate had become one of those words that looked fake if I stared at it too long. My mother called at 7:40. I let it ring twice while the cursor blinked on the blank letter. Then guilt won. "You sound tired," she said, before I got through hello. "Long day." "Did they fix that renewal mess you told me about?" I had made the mistake, weeks earlier, of explaining Northlake to her while driving to the pharmacy. My mother remembered the emotional weather of things even when she forgot the names. "Not yet. You always fix it." There was love in that, also a trap neither of us meant to set. I rubbed my eyes. "I'm trying not to fix the wrong thing this time." She was quiet for a moment. In the background, her television murmured through a weather report. "Do you need money?" The question hit harder than Lenora's letter. My mother lived on a disability check and a stubborn belief that offering $10 could still change a week. I looked at the pharmacy tab on my screen, then at my bank balance. "No," I lied. "I'm okay." After we hung up, I canceled my dental cleaning scheduled for Friday. The confirmation email arrived immediately, cheerful and empty. "Appointment canceled. We hope to see you soon." That was the first visible cost of my dignity, one molar I had been worrying about since December. I got up, washed a mug that was already clean, and came back to the table. The second version of the letter was colder. To Lenora Vance, effective immediately, I withdraw authorization for Veyron Medical Systems to use my name, certification number, prior responsible, officer attestations, or credentialed status in any current or future client renewal materials, representing oversight after the effective date of my reclassification. I stopped there and read it out loud. It did not sound dramatic. Good. I added the dates. Monday, the backdated payroll effective date from Tessa's note. Tuesday, the acknowledgement Lenora had made me sign. Tuesday afternoon, the export of the Northlake packet with my certification footer still attached. I did not accuse, I did not interpret. I wrote like someone placing clean objects on a table. As of the company's documented role and compensation change, I no longer hold the title, access, authority, or compensation associated with responsible compliance oversight for the Northlake surgical renewal. Therefore, any representation that I currently provide such oversight is inaccurate unless my role, authority, and written consent are restored before submission. My hands shook again, but differently this time. I printed the letter, found one typo, fixed it, printed it again. The pages came out of my cheap home printer with a faint stripe down the left margin because I had been ignoring the toner warning for 2 months. Then I had to decide where to send it. If I gave it only to Lenora, she could bury it. If I sent it too widely, she could paint me as reckless. If I copied the wrong person, I could look like I was trying to damage the company instead of correcting my own credential use. I chose 4 recipients. Lenora. Payroll records, because the effective date mattered. The internal compliance archive, because the packet lived there. And Northlake's renewal coordinator, Diane Avery, because her packet carried my name. I hovered over Diane's email address for a long time. That was the line. Not because Diane was powerful. She was practical, middle-aged, allergic to vague answers, and had once told Lenora on a call that Northlake did not accept optimism as documentation. Copying her meant the problem left Lenora's room. It also meant I could be fired by breakfast. I stood up and paced from the stove to the sink and back. The radiator hissed. A siren passed on Lindale, then faded. My neighbor upstairs dropped something heavy enough to make the ceiling pop. For a few minutes, I hated myself for wanting someone to stop me. Omar, Tessa, my mother, anyone. Nobody did. So at 9:12, I attached the PDF and typed the shortest email I could manage. Please see attached notice regarding current use of my certification and responsible officer status in renewal materials following Veyron's documented role change. I sent it before I could make myself smaller. Then I printed one final copy for Lenora's desk. The paper slid out warm and slightly curled. I signed it in blue ink, the same way I had signed the attestation last year, except this time my name did not feel borrowed. I left the letter beside my keys so I could not forget it in the morning. At midnight, I checked my email once more. No reply. That should have helped me sleep. Instead, I lay awake listening to the radiator knock in the dark, wondering whether fear still counted as courage if fear was the only reason you knew exactly what something cost. I arrived before the office lights had fully warmed up. The compliance floor always looked less convincing before people filled it. Chairs tucked crookedly, monitors black, whiteboards carrying the ghost of erased arrows and deadlines. The certification wall glowed under the track lights like a display in a small, boring museum. I stopped in front of my frame. For 1 second, I reached for it. Then I let my hand drop. Taking it down first would have made me feel better. Leaving it up made the letter clearer. Lenora needed to see the exact thing she believed she still controlled. At my desk, I put my bag down, took out the signed notice, and smoothed it once with my palm. The blue ink of my signature had dried slightly darker than the printed text. Omar walked in carrying his helmet under one arm, cheeks red from biking through the cold. He saw the letter. He did not ask to read it. "You good?" "No." He nodded. "Good answer." Brooke came in 10 minutes later, hair still tucked into her scarf, eyes swollen like she had slept badly. She paused at my desk. "Diane from Northlake emailed Lenora at 6:03, she whispered. I looked up. Lenora replied? Brooke shook her head. "Not that I saw, but the renewal call is still on the calendar." Of course it was. Lenora would try to walk through the problem as if confidence could make paperwork rearrange itself. At 8:30, I carried the letter to her office. Lenora's office had a glass front with a sliding door that never closed quietly. She was already there, cream blazer replaced by a dark green one, laptop open, phone in hand. Her inbox reflected in her glasses. She looked up and smiled the way people smile at a calendar reminder they intend to dismiss. "Maya, perfect. Do you have the transition plan?" "Yes." I placed the letter on her desk. She glanced at the first line, then reached for her coffee. This should have been emailed before the meeting. It was. Last night. This is the signed copy. Her hand stopped on the cup. The silence changed texture. Outside her office, people moved through the aisle, pretending not to slow down. Lenora read the first paragraph quickly. Then she went back and read it again, slower. The color in her face did not drain dramatically. It tightened, which was worse. "What is this?" "Notice that I withdraw authorization for my certification and responsible officer status to be used for current oversight after the role change. You do not get to unilaterally interfere with a client renewal. I get to correct the use of my own credential." She pushed the paper flat with both hands. "This is a misunderstanding of internal process." "Then the correction should be easy. Restore the role, access, authority, and written consent before submission, or remove my name and certification from the packet." Lenora's eyes snapped to the glass wall behind me. Brooke was standing near the copier, not moving. Omar had suddenly become very interested in a binder. Lenora lowered her voice. "Close the door." I did. The sliding door gave its usual ugly scrape. She stood. "You copied Northlake. Their packet carries my certification number. You had no authority to contact them about internal compensation. I did not contact them about compensation. I contacted them about authorization." Her mouth opened, then closed. On her laptop, a new email banner appeared. I saw Diane Avery's name before Lenora clicked it away. Then another banner came in. "Northlake renewal call. Authorization clarification required." Lenora's phone rang. She looked at it, then at me, and for the first time since Cedar, she seemed to understand that waiting would not make me fill the silence for her. "Sit in the call," she ordered. "In what capacity?" Maya, that matters now. Her voice sharpened. You are still employed here. As documentation coordinator. The title landed between us like a dropped tool. The renewal call began at 9, with 6 people in tiny squares on Lenora's screen. Diane Avery from Northlake sat in a home office with a bookshelf behind her and reading glasses low on her nose. Brooke sat in the conference room beside Lenora, shoulders stiff. I sat at the far end of the table because Lenora pointed there without looking at me. Diane did not waste time. We received a notice from Maya Collins regarding responsible officer authorization. Before we review the packet, we need to understand who currently holds oversight authority for this renewal. Lenora smiled into the camera. Diane, thank you. This is an internal restructuring matter that should not affect continuity. Brooke will be your point of contact going forward, with Maya supporting transition. Diane looked down at something on her desk. Is Maya Collins currently authorized as responsible compliance officer for the materials submitted yesterday? Lenora's foot moved under the table. Maya remains part of the team. Diane lifted her eyes. That wasn't my question. The room went so still I could hear the vent click overhead. Lenora turned to me, her smile fixed. Maya, can you clarify for Diane that the renewal work was prepared under your oversight? The old job had been placed in front of me, like a dish I was expected to carry. I looked at Brooke first. Her pen was pressed so hard to the page it had stopped moving. Then I looked at Diane's square on the screen. The historical materials were prepared while I held the compliance operations specialist role and responsible officer access. As of the company's documented effective date for my reclassification, I no longer hold the title, access, compensation, or written authority for current responsible officer oversight. I cannot authorize representation that I currently provide it. No one spoke. Lenora's face stayed camera-ready, but a pulse jumped in her jaw. Diane removed her glasses. Then Northlake cannot proceed on the current packet. We will need corrected responsible officer documentation before renewal review continues. Diane, Lenora cut in. I want to be careful that we don't overcomplicate a staffing adjustment. I agree, Diane replied. Please send the corrected documentation. The call ended 6 minutes later, but it was over in that moment. Brooke closed her notebook. Her hands were shaking. Lenora did not look at her. She did not look at me either. She stared through the conference room glass at the certification wall across the aisle. My frame hung exactly where she had told me to leave it. Black border straight, name-centered, credential bright under the lights. For the first time, it did not look like decoration. It looked like something missing from her hand. The company did not collapse. No one ran through the office carrying a box of shredded secrets. Lenora was not escorted out by security. The ceiling tiles did not open and release justice in a clean, dramatic beam. What happened was smaller and, in some ways, more satisfying because it was harder to dismiss. The Northlake renewal moved from green to yellow on the client dashboard, then yellow to hold. The word hold appeared in 3 different systems by lunch, each one with a timestamp, each one requiring a reason. People who had ignored the compliance aisle for months started visiting with careful faces. A director named Paul Meacham came by at 11:30 and asked if I had a minute. Directors never asked if you had a minute because they cared about your calendar. They asked because they wanted the conversation to sound informal later. We went to Cedar, the same glass room where Lenora had cut my pay. Paul wore a fleece vest over a dress shirt and carried a notebook he never opened. He had the mild, weatherproof manner of a man who had survived many corporate mistakes by speaking slowly near them. Maya, we're trying to understand the fastest path to stabilizing Northlake. I looked at the chair Lenora had sat in the day before. The fake plant in the corner leaned toward the window as if it wanted out. The fastest path is assigning a current responsible officer with proper authority and submitting corrected documentation. Could you assist with that documentation? Under what role? Paul's eyes dipped just once. He knew enough to be annoyed by the question. We're not prepared to revisit the broader compensation decision in this moment. Then no. The word came out plain. No tremor, No speech attached. He tapped his pen against the unopened notebook. I want to make sure you understand that cooperation will be considered as we evaluate next steps. There were those teeth again, polished and procedural. I understand. And you are declining to help correct the packet? I am declining to perform responsible officer work under a documentation coordinator role and salary. I can provide factual location of historical files within my current access. I won't certify, review, or repair current oversight language. He finally opened the notebook and wrote something down. For a moment, fear rose so sharply I tasted coffee I had not drunk. I wanted to add a softer sentence. Something about being happy to support the team, something that would make him like me enough to be fair. I pressed my thumbnail into the side of my finger until the urge passed. Upstairs, the story moved without me. Brooke refused to be listed as responsible officer. Not loudly. She sent Lenora an email with one paragraph and copied Paul. I saw it because Lenora forwarded it to me by accident, then recalled it, which of course made everyone notice. I do not currently possess the certification, system access, or experience required to serve as responsible officer for Northlake Surgical. I can support documentation preparation only under supervision from an authorized person. It was not heroic. It was self-preservation wearing business casual. I respected it more than heroics. Tessa got questioned after lunch. I saw her through the glass by payroll, sitting with her cardigan pulled tight around her shoulders while Grant stood beside a manager from finance. My stomach twisted. An hour later, she walked past my desk without stopping and dropped a folded sticky note into my recycling bin. I waited until no one was looking. Not fired. Ticket timestamps match system record. Do not come downstairs. I almost laughed, then almost cried. Then did neither because Lenora was walking toward me. She stopped at the edge of my desk. The whole aisle became very interested in screens. Administrative leave, she announced quietly. 2 days, pending review of your conduct around client communication. You'll retain system access suspension during that time. Paid or unpaid? Her face did something small and ugly. Unpaid. There was the bite. A costly win does not feel like winning while you are standing in it. It feels like losing with better posture. I opened my drawer and took out my bag. My hand brushed the copy of the pay cut letter under my keyboard. I left it there. Let them find their own paper. Omar stood as I passed his desk. Text me when you get home, he murmured. Lenora heard him. She pretended not to. At the elevator, Brooke appeared beside me, breathless. I'm sorry, she whispered. I wanted to tell her it was fine, but it was not, and I was done donating comfort I could not afford. Don't sign anything you can't defend, I told her. She nodded hard, eyes shiny. For 2 days, I sat at home in the middle of business hours and tried not to refresh my email every 3 minutes. My mother thought I was working remotely. I let her think that because I did not have the strength to make her worry honestly. On Friday at 4:06, the final separation email arrived. Maya, after review, Veyron Medical Systems has determined that the modified arrangement is not workable. Your employment will end effective today. Please coordinate return of company property. No mention of the pay cut. No mention of the renewal hold. No mention of the letter. Corporate language can make a firing sound like weather. I read it twice, then closed the laptop. My apartment was quiet, except for the radiator, and a bus hissing at the curb outside. I was unemployed. My dental appointment was gone. My savings account was about to become less theoretical. And still, underneath the fear, something in me had unclenched. Lenora had changed my pay because she believed control lived in payroll. I had given her a letter because I knew control also lived in names, dates, access logs, and the one credential on the wall she had forgotten was mine. I went back after 6 on Monday because that was when offices became honest. During the day, people performed busyness and concern and plausible surprise. After 6, the performance thinned. The overhead lights stayed too bright. The kitchen trash smelled like old coffee. The copier slept with one green light blinking in the dark. Grant from payroll met me at reception with a cardboard box and the stiff politeness of a man who wished someone else had drawn escort duty. "You have 30 minutes, he told me. "I only need 20. My badge no longer worked, so he opened the door for me. The reader blinked red against the plastic in my hand. For 2 years, that small red light would have made my stomach drop. That evening, it felt almost ceremonial. The compliance aisle was empty except for Brooke. She sat at my old desk with the Northlake binder open and a pencil tucked behind one ear. When she saw me, she stood so fast, her chair rolled backward into Omar's trash can. "I didn't know you were coming." "Neither did I until 4. She looked tired. Not glamorous, guilty tired, actually tired, with a coffee stain on her sleeve and a stack of corrected packet pages beside her keyboard. "They brought in someone from Prairie Home to cover responsible officer review," she said. "Northlake gave them 10 business days. Lenora told everyone the delay was due to documentation modernization." I let out a short breath. "Of course she did." Brooke's mouth twisted. "Diane asked for a written authority matrix before the next call." That sounded exactly like Diane. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Brooke reached into her drawer and pulled out my blue-labeled folder of December corrective actions. "I didn't change your labels." It was an odd apology, but not a useless one. "Thank you." Grant shifted near the end of the aisle, pretending to check his phone. I packed slowly. 2 mugs, 1 chipped. A cardigan I had forgotten in July. A small bottle of ibuprofen. A photo strip from a holiday party where Omar wore antlers and looked furious about it. I left the company pens. In the bottom drawer, I found the original exam receipt for my certification, folded into an envelope with old flashcards. I had studied in coffee shops, in hospital waiting rooms, on buses when my car needed brakes. The company had reimbursed the exam fee later, but nobody had reimbursed the evenings. I put the receipt in my bag. Then I walked to the wall. The frame was higher than I remembered. I had to stand on the bottom shelf of the document cabinet to reach it, which made Grant take 2 alarmed steps forward. "Careful!" "I'm fine." The frame lifted off the hooks with a soft scrape. Behind it, the paint was a lighter rectangle, clean and almost embarrassing, bordered by the gray film that office air leaves around anything that stays too long. 2 small picture hooks remained in the wall, bent slightly upward. Brooke looked at the empty space. She told me it belonged to the department. I stepped down, holding the frame against my chest. She told herself that first. Brooke nodded like she understood more than she wanted to. At reception, Grant took my laptop, charger, and badge. He placed each item in a plastic bin and checked it off a list. "Personal items cleared," he muttered. The certification frame was under my arm. He glanced at it, but did not write anything down. Outside, the parking ramp smelled like thawing concrete and exhaust. My car windshield had a skin of ice at the edges. I sat in the driver's seat with the frame across my lap and cried for about 2 minutes. Not graceful tears, tired, angry ones that made my face hurt. Then my phone buzzed. Omar had sent a message. "Diane asked me for your personal email. I did not give it. Told her I would ask first." I stared at the screen, wiped my nose with a napkin from the glove box, and typed back. "You can give it to her." 3 weeks later, I was not thriving. I want to be clear about that. Thriving is a word people use after the hard part has been edited down. I was doing contract compliance work for a smaller medical device vendor in St. Paul that had squeaky floors, no free snacks, and a founder who said, "I don't know," when he did not know. They paid me less than my old full salary at first, but more than Lenora's generous recalibration. More importantly, when they asked me to sign a review, the authority matrix matched my name. Northlake did not hire me. Diane was too careful for that. But she referred me to 2 people who needed temporary compliance cleanup, and she wrote in one email, "Maya was precise under pressure." I printed that email, not because it fixed everything, because some sentences are worth keeping where you can see them. The first night after my new contract started, I hung my certification in my apartment above the folding table I used as a desk. The wall was plaster, old and slightly uneven, and the frame refused to sit straight. I adjusted it 3 times, then gave up. It hung a little crooked. Below it, my laptop was open to a renewal checklist with my name in the correct box. My mother's inhaler sat in a pharmacy bag by the door. The dental office had found me a cancellation for the following month. Nothing had changed everything. Not in the way Lenora feared. Not in the way I had secretly wanted while lying awake with the radiator knocking. But the letter changed the one thing she thought she controlled completely. It changed my permission. And every morning after that, when I sat at my folding table and looked up at the crooked frame, I saw the pale rectangle it had left behind in that office. I saw the 2 bent hooks still waiting on the compliance wall. For once, the empty space belonged to them. The name belonged to me.